Well, hello, everybody. This is Gail Kraft from the Empowering Process podcast. And I have to say, I have a friend with me that we're going to have a blast on. And this is Kerri Lewis, KerriLewis. That's her website, kerrilewis.coach. She is all about love, she is about healing. And her shtick is healing and love and empowerment. And she is a transformational coach because she has transformed herself. We have no idea where this conversation is going to go because it's a conversation.
I love that so much.
Yes.
And thank you for the introduction, Gail. And you are just a soul sister. So I feel like friend doesn't actually adequately describe our connection. But I feel very, very blessed to be able to do life with you. And thank you so much for this second opportunity to be on your show and connect with your audience.
Kerri, since you were on my show, we have texted each other, we've chit-chatted with each other. Like you said, we're like soul sisters, and it has very little to do with our experience in life. I think that so it started it, but it has to do with how we've taken that experience in our life and alchemized it to become a gift,
Yeah, so
right?
good.
Yeah.
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 And to each other, and then also to the people that the universe places within our experience in any given moment. And I think, interestingly enough, because you said we're not sure where this conversation is going, and I'm being called to say this, we were just talking about setting expectations or how we show up in conversations. And sometimes the way you and I show up as a gift is to just bear witness to other people and their experience and not have to say anything and just allow it to be what it is and then leave it there and then take the lesson for ourselves. For example, I was sharing with you yesterday, I just witnessed somebody who shows up in love but still has to do their own work too, because it's love and then fear and love and fear, whereas I think you and I do a really good job at recognizing when we're in fear and not projecting it out into the world.
And I call part of my, and I'll use air quotes authenticity because when I hear words being used too many times that they lose their flavor. Um, but part of me striving to be authentic is owning my own shit. But that
Yeah.
doesn't mean I have to spew it out there all of the time. So when we were talking earlier, we last week, we were talking about how your love, like that's it. You want to be loved on. If you want to heal through love, if you want to experience love, Kerri is the person. She is love, 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 love. And that's why I love you because you truly, this is where you come from. I come from a place of truth and clarity.
Mm.
And that's more frightening to people than love.
We're going to have to lovingly disagree because two things.
I love you.
Yeah. Two things. One, when you do show up in love as love for people, that also means you have to reflect truth, which is
Right.
uncomfortable and can be icky sticky. But even more importantly, when we don't love ourselves, we don't know how to receive love. It seems superficial. A lot of people, when I show up in this space, are immediately repulsed by me, and that's okay. I know it's not a personal thing. They just haven't peel back the layers enough to know that they are worthy of me seeing them, me bearing witness to them in this moment without expecting them to be any different than what that looks like in this moment. And I think what you touched on that I love, but I want to, touch on a little bit further is showing up quote unquote authentic is different each moment for each of us. Meaning, I can be a total bear and that's authentic, or I could be deep love, that's authentic. I can be irritated by the experience. And so I think what you and I do well, and then allow and give permission to other people to do well, is to just be whatever it is they are in that moment, whether they're feeling sad, whether they're feeling frustrated, whether they're feeling fear. And I think in that regard, you and I both show up as love for our clients. And I also think that's very hard to be on the receiving end in the beginning because it feels so disingenuous because people aren't used to it.
And I think that's a very good point, is that people aren't accustomed to it. And so it feels disingenuine.
Yes.
And maybe that is where the fear comes from. I don't know. I don't want to project for other people. I know for me, transforming, changing, growing at first I didn't even understand the fear.
Oh,
Never
yeah.
mind being fearful. I didn't even understand that I was feeling fear because I was so comfortable with running my life fear-based. Right.
That is so good. Yes.
Right. Right.
Yes.
And so when I started taking a look at that, and I'll tell you when it happened. So I was crewing at an event. I used to crew for motivational speakers, and I'm crewing an event, which means I've gone through these events, right? And I participated in one of the exercises. And so the speaker said, so, what was one of the fears that you came up with? And so I shared, as to be a model of sharing, right? And I said, I am afraid of losing friends as I mature in my business.
Mm.
And he looked at me and he said, so you have a fear of success? And I went, no. And then I went, holy shit, yes. Right. And that's what I mean. People may understand the feeling, but they don't understand what they're afraid of.
Yeah, I
Right.
agree.
Right.
Right. And so, but think about it, like, that's why these conversations are so beautiful because you and I, yes, we continue to do the work for ourselves. And in conversation with each other, we are each other's teacher and student. And so I always tell people, even if we just have a conversation, I don't have an expectation of how I am meant to show up in service to you. I don't say, oh, we're gonna have a conversation, you're gonna be my client, or oh, we're gonna have three. Whatever that looks like. And in being so open, we start to recognize those fears, right? And it's the awareness. It's that simple awareness. He was able to be like, oh, so this, and that awareness was able to crack you to a deeper level and a deeper
Mhm.
level. And so that was such a gift that now is paying forward because now you're giving that gift to other people.
And that's the thing. So I'll share another story. It's a huge, I would say, my last bomb of awakening or opening up. And I was living in Ashland, working for someone, and it was not going well. Why I went there and what I ended up doing were, miles apart. And I just wanted to serve this person. And no matter what I did, I couldn't satisfy what they were lacking, right? And at the end, my heart was broken because this is someone that I admired, which is a mistake. This is someone I put on a pedestal, which is a mistake. And I knew this, all of the stuff I knew as I was walking, eyes wide open into this. But I literally was laying on the couch making a choice. I either call 911 because I am having a heart attack, or figure out what is it that I'm doing in my life that I fall into this kind of situation, and how do I heal it? I chose option B.
Yeah.
And came to a realization of my life choices because of abandonment issues, right? And what I was looking for that can only be found internally.
I'm so glad you said that.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and this was the, like, I'm laying on the couch holding my heart going through this, and then realizing what a big gift this heartbreaking experience was. And my heart did break open
Yeah.
in that moment. Right. And so the next day, I told my roommate, sorry, but I'm gone. Right. Sent her an email. Nice working for you. I don't work for no money, by the way. So see you later. And packed my bags and left. And that's when I tell the story about being homeless in debt and no business, right? Ready to sell pencils on the street corner in San Diego,
Yep.
right? But I knew that the gift I was to receive is now I received it. It's time for me to go and be prepared for whatever comes after that. And it was amazing after that. That's a whole other story. The point being is that we know we have to go through the pain, and sometimes the pain is facing ourselves.
Oh, it's always facing ourselves, right? I mean,
Right.
I think that every experience we're gifted is an opportunity to examine ourselves, right? And
Right.
I'm going to give you a really good example, uh, very tangible. Right before you and I jumped on this call, I listened to my boyfriend's brother call him and talk about how proud he was to watch my boyfriend grow and proud of what man he was and stuff. And immediately my ego flared immediately, because those were the words that I have been craving for years to hear from my twin sister. Like, because she in a lot of ways is why I'm alive today, right? Because when I did not love myself, I loved her enough to do the work, right? And then eventually it became about me. So I find myself going through this narrative, right? But then I stopped and I'm like, wait a minute, that's such an illusion. I don't need I don't need my twin sister to be proud of me anymore. I'm proud of me. I'm proud of what I've done. I can get up every day in the mirror and say, I am incredibly resilient, incredibly brave. I face down every dark night of the soul situation I'm ever presented with. I still continue to choose to show up in compassion and love. And I don't need to hold on to this story any longer that I'm experiencing lack, because what you just said, our heart cracked open. And in that cracking open, we learn that if we do the work, the you can nurture, find so much peace, abundance, joy effortlessly within yourself. And you don't need that from anybody else.
No, but I will say what I gained from you, because you're such a model of love and compassion, right? Is how do I bring more of that into me?
Mm,
Right? And so in our relationships, we have choices. We can look at what's wrong with the relationship,
yeah,
which most people do after they fall in love, get married, and then they start picking, right? We can either look at what's wrong, or we can continue to look at, this is how you feed me and this is how I feed you. But if
yeah.
you don't feed me, I am whole.
Yes.
I'm choosing to
So
sit at
good.
the right. I'm choosing to sit at the table with you, but I don't have to eat,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Well, I love that you said that. And it's interesting because it kind of brings me back to a thought I had that I didn't share with you earlier. But when you were talking to me about an encounter you had with a gentleman, right? And we don't need to go into the specifics. I was sitting here thinking, I would have hung up the phone. Like, I wouldn't have even let the person feed me at that point. That's really, and I think for me to show up as love, I have to love myself. And what I have determined is, if it feels icky, if I get tightness here, the conversation's over. The request is over. The answer is an unequivocal no. And I'll give you another example. Last week, somebody reached out to me and said, hey, we're having a summit. It's experts on being entrepreneurs in business, successfully leaving corporate America. Love for you to consider being a guest, but I need to know how many emails people you have is on your email list. I
Right.
immediately made a video and I said, that whole dynamic feels really icky to me, so
Right.
I'm gonna
I
opt
want your
out.
list. I want your list. Yeah.
Well, but yeah, but if you're going to determine my level of expertise based on that, then that's not even relevant in my world. And to be transparent with your community, I have a whole 160 people. And you know why? That is not the purpose of why I show up in the world. I don't
love
give a
you.
crap. Like, if you sign up, great. If you don't, great. If you like, how can I say I'm going to show up as love and then be worried about the clicks on my videos? What I can do is show up as love and hope that you and me have a meaningful conversation. And if somebody else gains value from it, awesome. If not, awesome. Either way, I'm showing up as who I'm supposed to be in this moment. And that to me is enough.
Right? And I honestly feel, right, that the world is evolving so quickly. Like you and I are, I'm evolving more fast now than ever before. It's daily, it's sometimes hourly, right? We're evolving so quickly. Those that are not, that are afraid to put their foot in the water, are seeing a wider and wider gap. And so, us holding this kind of conversation is for both. It's for
Yeah.
those who are on the journey and want, like, want us to hold their heart while they're on the journey,
Yeah.
right? And those who are seeing the gap and going, holy crap, I don't know the first step to take on the journey,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? But I want to go.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you can probably relate to this. I end up coaching a ton of coaches. I just do. And not because I'm like, oh, hire me to coach you.
No,
It's just, again, we show up in service. And I know you saw the reel the other day. I can't tell you how many people are half in this work and half out. And what I mean by that is, all right, I left corporate America. I'm kind of doing the work, but I'm going to show up and do business the same way I did it in corporate America. And you know what that's doing? It's sucking your soul, because if you are showing up doing the same things you did, just in a different arena, how are you actually learning yourself? How are you? I'm going to tell you in a quick ditty what I do. I wake up, I spend between 3 and 5 hours in spiritual practice and self love for myself. Now, that's a myriad of things, from physical fitness to meditation to journaling to play, but 3 to 5 hours before I ever show up into the world to engage with people. Then I take a client or do a video, and then guess what I do? I play, and then what do? I'm called to, now granted, because I keep such an open space, I only take 10 clients on at a time, to be strategic about the fact that I work with people in addiction and mental health, right? Crisis. I want them to have access to me. And I can't be love if I'm a hot mess trying to go from one client to the other, and or not taking care of myself, right? Or projecting the energy that I just got from this conversation into the conversation I have next. That is not showing up and being present. And so I work with 2 to 3 clients at most a day. I have these engaging conversations simply because they fill my cup and I learn. But outside of that, I play. I'm a goofball. And that to me is doing business differently. So if you want to ask me about successful entrepreneurship, it's saying screw you to this belief that you do have to hustle and grind to be successful. That's crap. But then, and in that, I just bring that up because, to your point about the gap becoming so wide, right? I mean, talk about love feeling uncomfortable. What's more uncomfortable than breaking down the conditions that you have to be doing in
right?
order to what are we supposed to achieve? I don't know anymore, because really at the end of the day, we're just supposed to be in deep connection. That's it.
And that is where, so you know that I'm just coming out of a cancer journey, which means I've
Yes.
had 9 months of not really being engaged as much as I would like to be. And so now I'm at the point with, okay, in a few weeks I'll be done with this, and it's time for me to enter the world again, right? And so what does that look like? And people are like, well, you need goals. No,
No.
you need clarity on how I
Nope.
want to feel, yes, but not on
Yeah.
anything else, right? So all of the tools that used to work, you know, when friends of mine who are coaches throw this out at me, I want to scratch the chalkboard,
Yeah.
right? Because it doesn't feel right. And what I've learned through this cancer experience is more about what feels right in my body than anything. And I kind of knew that before, but not like I know it now. Because what
Yeah.
did I do for 9 months? Focus on getting my body through chemo.
You know, it's so funny because you said that, and I'm listening, and you're like, I wasn't engaged. And in my head, I'm like, of course you were engaged. You were engaged with the most important person in the entire world, which is yourself.
Right?
And you're spot on. And, you know, it's so funny because I have people talk to me. I'm like, if you saw my business plan, you would be appalled. Appalled. Because I am for all your viewers out there, I am a former corporate leader. Okay. I was a CEO. I helped start up businesses, not for myself, which is actually what taught me that I could do business for myself. But the reality is I know all about strategic planning and blah, blah, blah.
And
Guess what?
KPIs and POSs and
You know
all
what
the
that
other
did?
shit.
That kept me in deep suffering. That kept me drinking 2 bottles of wine at night. That kept me disconnected and not present with my 2 teenage daughters who needed their mama. So now my business plan is to show up in love. Outside of that, I have no strategy and it's working pretty damn well. So for any of you who are like this, that's insane. I get it because from this paradigm of conditioning that you got to go to school, then you got to go to college, and you buy a house and you get 2.5 kids, a dog, 2 cars, and a marriage, right? That all makes sense. And yet, when you look at society as a whole, we have 80% of people who agree that they drink more than they'd like to. We have 80% of people who are taking mental health medications to manage their anxiety and stress because they don't have the tools and the skills to cope. And then, yeah, we're producing for sure, but who's getting it? The top 1%. So, how does that make any sense at all? It doesn't, and I'm not bought in anymore.
Thank you. So I wrote down know yourself as
Yes,
being key,
you're right.
right? Right. And that again is where you and I come in. And it's, what are the steps to knowing yourself? Right. Number one is admitting that you don't know yourself.
Awareness. So
Right.
good, Gail. I love
Right.
that. Yeah.
Right. So it is a process. And there are processes out there that I could lead you to, or you could work with me. I'm more of I show up the way the universe tells me to show up for you. And I'm like you, Kerri, I cannot handle, in fact, I don't handle more than 2 clients in a day
Yeah.
because I want to be clear. And I block out 3 hours because if you're in the middle of crises, I can't say your hour's up.
I know. Is yeah.
Your hour's up, tough shit, go home. Right. And the longest I've been on a call with someone has been 3 hours. So that's
Yeah.
why I block out 3 hours. Right.
That's interesting. I don't know that I would ever do that. And I'll tell you what, and this is my personal, you know what I mean? Because the reality is there's always an energy exchange. And so I think for me,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just being really clear for anybody, because I want, like, I'm happy to hold space, but I am also very, very aware when I need to take a step to then recharge my own energy to
Oh,
then show
absolutely.
up in love again.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. I've never been faced with the situation. Actually, I've never been faced with a situation of working with somebody for 3 hours. I will tell you, yesterday, I was on a call with a group of people who are going through sobriety, and I was on it for 10 minutes. And energetically, I'm like, nope. This is not the energy I'm willing to be around today. And normally I'm a very supportive, positive contributor to this to help be that cheerleader of change for these people who are moving through the ick, right? Because and that's it. Is it to get to the level where Gail and I are at, right? And it means walking through I don't know, a football field of shit is the best way I can describe it,
And
right?
I and
It's
I'm
not
saying
like a
walking on
yard.
coals, like the Tony Robbins walking on coals, but this is really walking on the coals of your soul.
Yeah, and it's so much more work than walking on coals. I can I can put it myself in an energetic state that I can sit and, I am a fitness person. Anybody who really, really pushes themselves in fitness meditates through fitness because you're lighting up your muscles. That's different. This is you get, and this is why I say I got people like a fish, and I'm sure you can relate. You may phrase it differently, but the thing is I I encourage and bear witness to you stripping down the entire paradigm, the structure that you have operated in to then start to learn who you are. And this is funny because I was going to do a message yesterday. I was talking to a client. The client had a mental health crisis, right? They went into mania, and now they're coming out of it, and they're struggling because they don't trust themselves, right? There's, and in this, and I'm going to be really honest, this is where I have such an issue with the mental health industry, guys. If you have an episode with mental health, that does not mean that you as a person for the whole life of your existence is mentally ill. It means that you had a mental health issue that you need to work on healing so that way you can move forward. But we don't tell people that, so that they get this label and this cognitive idea in their head that they're sick for the rest of their lives. Bullshit. And so now they're struggling to trust themselves. I cannot stand that. So I'm talking to this person and I said, don't get this twisted. You're working with me, which already tells me that you trust your soul, because if you didn't, you could never, ever sit across the table from me because I'm a reflection of you. That's one. Number two, the real issue at hand is not that you don't trust yourself. The real issue is at hand is you never knew yourself.
Right. And that's what happens. So I can remember as a child knowing who I was.
Yep.
Knowing, number one, that I don't come from here. Knowing, asking, well, where is home? This isn't home, right? Knowing that I am a reflection. I knew I was a reflection. And I also knew that I could physically alchemize myself into different shapes.
Huh.
Now,
That's cool.
yeah, one day I'll tell you that story. And as I got programmed, I forgot.
Yeah.
I forgot.
As we all do.
Right? Right. And so knowing yourself means that you discover who you are, not just physically, not the archetype that we've created. You're not an archetype. You don't identify with your illness. You don't identify with your job. You don't identify with your spouse. You don't identify with your people. You identify with you, self, capital S, which is connected to source.
Which is one with you and me.
And we are all source.
Yes.
We are all, the dog, the trees, we're all source.
Yep.
Right? And in doing that, the only direction I accept, so take this back to the conversation we had earlier, is that conversation I have with my maker.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All of the choices I made during this process, this journey I just went through, came from source.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like, what do I do? Do I go for the Western treatment? Absolutely, Gail. Okay. Do I also go for Eastern treatment? Absolutely, Gail. Right? Do I do this? No. Do I do that? Yes. Right? And it was such an experience of trusting that I know because I'm connected to the all that knows.
Yeah.
That's what we want our clients to get to, is knowing themselves so well. And not that questions don't come up, problems don't come up. Otherwise, you would no longer be here. You would have physically transcended.
Yeah.
Right? You still have experiences that help you grow. But to know yourself, you can stand, like I stood in a conversation, which none of you really need to know about, but I stood in a conversation of being attacked, feeling because I was so open, feeling the stabs. And then when I was done, going, well, what part of that is true and what part of that is a reflection?
Yeah.
Right? And, there was some truth, but definitely not with
Well,
what
there's
was
always truth, right?
right.
Because we have every experience we have is purposeful. And to your point, you and I are evolving at such a fast rate. Like I had a major revelation this morning, which you and me can talk offline about. But so we're evolving so fast. You can't evolve without being faced with these experiences and healing the layers. And to your point, we are going to be doing this work until we no longer, we're going to do one of two things. You're going to experience enlightenment and you're just going to be, which, you know, that's Christ consciousness. I know people who have actually experienced that. You still have your ego. So something that you said that I want to highlight to your audience because it's beautiful is yes, you and I are still in a human experience. We are going to have the human experience, which means when people say hurtful things, it wounds me. It's not that I'm above feeling that stab of pain. It's that rather than reacting, rather than projecting,
Or
I
defending,
or defending, exactly.
right.
I examine it internally and then I transmute it into love. I make that choice. That's a conscious choice, you know. And that takes a lot of work, guys. And it's one moment at a time. That's the other thing I really want to highlight because I remember feeling, oh my God, this is so much work. It's so like, what's the point? It's just one choice, one interaction, one moment at a time. It was one encounter with an employee that I spoke poorly to that I learned that I needed to watch my words. So one encounter with my daughter where I slammed her stuff on the floor because I drank too much and I was observant that I needed to show up differently, right? It's just that one choice. So don't it is a hard journey, but it's moments. And as long as you're present in those moments and you make that conscious choice to, like you did yesterday, be attacked and bear witness rather than respond and defend. And like me, where I just observe my experience and then I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I have to own and take responsibility for. That's all the work is. And over time, you look back and you're like, I don't even know the person I once was. Like, that's not even me. And it really isn't because you are operating at such a different level of understanding, you know, a different, you know, frequency, consciousness. Yes. But for people who are like, what are you talking about? It's just you understand things from a different perspective.
Right. And perspective is the key. And this is why I say from that person's perspective, that's true from that person's
Yeah.
perspective. And I don't own your story or your shit.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I own mine, right? And there are times when, just like you, I have, and just recently, done something that is completely out of character and gone, well, there's the old Gail showing up again.
Yeah. Of course, because
Right?
we're
And
human.
right, step back and observe what's going on. And then, what is it, what is going on? Why did this happen? And how do I alchemize so that it doesn't again? Right.
That's so beautiful. And I think it's so important for people who are struggling with addiction and mental health issues because, you know, I specifically say I work in addiction and mental health, but Gail does too, because you can't alchemize experiences and not work with anybody, really. That's true, right? And what you did was you basically said what I said, just in different language, which is instead of judging yourself for the old Gail coming up and recognizing that you were behaving in a way that you once would have often, you just got curious and you're like, okay, what do I got to learn? Okay, what made me feel that way was fun. Okay, cool. Got it. Keep moving. And anybody who's struggling with addiction, instead of saying, oh my God, I suck at life, I drank last night, I blah, 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 which is the normal narrative, why don't you just say, what was it that happened that caused me to pick up that drink instead of pick up help? What can I learn from this? Okay, cool. Who can I call to help me create a framework? And I say framework because I, like you, don't believe in programs. Everybody's different and it changes. But what framework can we create together so that next time this situation comes up, I make a different choice?
And
That's it.
and one of the things that I'm curious about, and I'll start with, okay, so there was a diagnosis that was presented to me, and that diagnosis was breast cancer. You notice I didn't say I have,
Yep.
right? I made a conscious effort not to identify with any of the information that came from any of the tests that I got. It was just information from a person, right? That could have been wrong, because believe me, labs are not flawless, right? And it actually was different than my original diagnosis that they presented to me. Now I am entering into the post era, and I went to my first meeting last night and was like, I'm not doing this. Every person there is identifying with what they were.
Yeah.
They don't know who they are without it. And like, ooh, I can't be with this group of people. And I think the facilitator realized that. And so she sent me a link for a different group that is more about, like, let's live in a positive way. Let's live in a healthy way, right? And has nothing to do whether there's cancer or not.
Yeah.
I fought the cancer, like I didn't want to be the cancer girl, right? Up until I think maybe a quarter of the way through chemo. And I'm like, but you are, Gail.
Yeah, I mean, like you
Right,
getting
but you
poison
are.
infused in your body. You're
Right.
getting radiation treatments. I was talking to you like I'm sitting in this funky like position. I mean, you kind of are. That's like me saying
Yeah.
I'm not the rape survivor. Yeah, I mean I
Yeah.
am, but it doesn't define me. It doesn't.
Right.
It is like a minuscule part of me. For you, it's more present, so it's prevalent. But at some point, you'll look back and you're just going to be like, that was one of the experiences I went through. And in reality, to be able to bear witness and hold space for other people who are going through it, which I want to highlight on something that started us doing this in the first place, because I think it's really important. This started because I had put up a TikTok that basically said, our healing journey is so individualized, and it really is, guys. That is so personal, and it is going to look different for every single person. And that is our mental healing, our physical healing, and our spiritual or energetic healing, however you identify, right? And for me, and I can only speak for me because you and me haven't really dissected this. So I have a hard time when I hear people in the medical, coaching, mental health industries that say you must subscribe to this in order to experience this.
Right.
No, you must not. My job as a coach is not to tell you what you need to do. My job is to, sadly, because I shouldn't have to, but we do, give you permission to tell yourself what you need to do and listen to it. And that to me is the difference between how I show up for people and some other people. And again, there's no right or wrong. Programs and laid out structure works very, very well for people. In fact, at one point in my healing journey, it worked for me. It no longer does, because I recognize that what feels really good for me may not feel really good for Gail. And so
Right.
my job isn't to tell you what to do. My job is to teach you different tools and strategies, to play with them, to help you create a framework that works good for you, and then to challenge you as you start to move through this, to push yourself into what feels really good for you. And that's why I like that you went on this journey of cancer, because you're going to be able to help other people who move through cancer diagnoses and not tell them how they need to show up in their diagnosis, but rather bear witness and help them get curious so that they can make an informed decision that feels really good for their spirit
And
rather than
that's,
what seems right.
and then be advocates for themselves. I have got
Yes.
to tell you, from day one, I had to fight and fight and fight for my course of treatment that I chose.
Yeah.
Right. And every step of the way. And I will tell you, I had to do trauma work on myself after this. The first meeting I had with the radiologist before my treatment started, she literally said, if this shows up again, both breasts have to come off. She's now, that's a program, guys. She set a program in my head. If
Yeah.
I were, and I literally was like thrown back from it. If I was not aware, that program would be playing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What I did
And
was,
may I ask, because I think this is, again, important. You were emotionally affected at first, right? You
of
did
course.
feel, okay. I
Oh,
wanted to
that's
make
why
sure.
I was pushed back. I'm like, why is she putting this in my head? Does she know what she just did to me?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so I came home, and there is two trauma processes, one NLP and one similar, that erase trauma. And I'm
Yep.
like, before you get your anchors in, we're erasing you right now. Right. And and so I did that work. And so now I can talk about it and not identify with it.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, the reason I asked is this amazing human, actually, that makes me realize I should put you into touch. I was talking to this individual, and they were on a call. And as a result of their old experiences, made a decision on the call and agreed to something that as soon as they hung up, realized didn't feel good. And I think so often people don't think they can change their mind. And this is I'm going to tell you why I'm bringing this up. Because you were aware that that was not a narrative that serves you. But more often than not, we're operating from a heightened nervous system, and we haven't really examined um everything that we've experienced that causes us to react. So if you're a people pleaser, you naturally tend to say yes because that's just your default. But then as you're doing this work, you're going to hang up the phone and you're going to be like, crap, I didn't want to say yes. That sucks. And then you have this choice, and people run into this choice. They're like, okay, well, I said yes. Now I made a commitment. I made a commitment and I got to follow through because I got to blah, blah, blah. Or
Oh,
you
that
can be
used to
like,
be me,
oh,
baby. Yep.
me, I'm like, it doesn't feel good. So I pick up the
Yep.
phone. Hey, I made a mistake. I just realized after sitting with this for some time, it doesn't really feel good. Thank you. I really appreciate blah, blah. And that's what I want your community to hear is, and what I love that you were able to recognize before you even bought in. But in case you do buy in, because we will, I've done it myself, right? You're going to know, but then fall victim to, oh crap, I didn't stop to think that one through. You get to change your mind. You get to say no. You get to say, you know what? After careful consideration, I've decided that that does not feel good for me, and I'm going to pass on this, or whatever it is. And that can be in all areas of your life, whether it's a medical condition, if you agree to chemo and then decide, you know what? I don't think I want to do that. Whether you agree to a promotion and then you decide, you know what? That really doesn't serve me. Any area of your life, guys, if you respond without actually being able to think it through and recognize why you have that response, you get to change your mind.
Right. Right. And even partway down, I can remember my first marriage. If I was aware now, then here's what was going through my mind. Well, divorces are easy these days.
I knew the day I remember sitting in my wedding dress, 3 months pregnant, on my grandmother's chest, saying, I should not be marrying this man.
Right. Right. And this was my high school sweetheart. Come on.
And
But
don't get me wrong, and it begs to be said, my ex-husband is a beautiful man. It's just that we were not a good fit together,
we
and
were
I knew
awful.
it,
We
and
were
I did
oil
not
and water.
listen.
Oh my God. It was horrible.
Yeah, but that was a lesson we were meant to. And so that's the other thing too. We grow and expand. And if you are with somebody who's not growing and expanding, you're eventually going to have that tension too. You just can't, even if at one point, right, you guys were a perfect fit. And that is true. Like, I am so grateful for my experience with my ex-husband.
Mm-hmm.
But as I evolved and he wasn't in that same journey, it was just too stark in the, like, to your point about consciousness and rugs of ladders, right? He couldn't even like, I was so out of his depth because he had no idea what I was talking about it. And then how do you stay in that? Then you're either suffering because you think you're loving this person, but really you're keeping yourself both in suffering because they're never going to get their needs met and you're not getting your needs met,
Oh, I
or
know I
you
stayed
leave.
because of ego. I stayed
Oh,
because of ego.
me too,
It's like,
for
oh,
sure.
so here I am. I'm going to be failure at this marriage, right? This is all my fault. And by the time we did divorce, I no longer felt that way.
Yeah.
But I can recall being told, I was at a wedding and this woman who had never been married, by the way, said to me, marriage staying together is up to the woman. You failed. And I looked at her and I said, you have no idea what you're talking about, woman.
I actually recently talked to somebody who looked at me and said, marriage is forever. And I made a vow. Mind you, this person is in a marriage. Now, these are two beautiful people. Like, I know both people, and they are incredible. And I'm like, in my head, I didn't say this because that person was not in a place to receive. So you're going to just sit in suffering because you made this pretend vow to make a commitment to this person that you weren't like isn't even the same person that you're married to now, but okay. Like, but that's what we do, is we hold on to these stories, and these stories keep us in suffering. And instead of sitting in stories, why don't you just say, what feels good to me in this moment? And at the
Right?
end of the day, guys, it does not matter what anybody else thinks. You get to feel good in any given moment. And if it makes you feel icky, and that is my barometer. If it feels icky, the answer is a hard no. And I even said to my significant other, Nana, who I mean, he and I are like, we are soulmates. But I said to him 2 weeks into our um relationship, I said, if you don't grow, I will leave. And not that you have to grow like me. I don't care what your journey is. Your journey, because he dresses in cosplay, he does anime stuff, he does modeling. Your journey can be completely different than mine. It's not how you grow, it's that you're constantly doing what feels right for you. Because if
Right.
you are, you're inevitably growing. You can't not.
Right. It's inevitable. It is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that is what I want for my clients. I have clients that are on a maintenance program. That means once a month we just touch base, right?
Yeah.
And for some it's because so that they don't slip back. They've not yet stepped into their personal strength, but they're getting there. And for
Yep.
others, it is they're there and we are sharing. Holy crap, this happened this month, and they're like, we are so in alignment. Here's what I've experienced. What should I do about this? Now,
Yeah.
can I tell them? I don't know. What does it feel like? Right. So we witness each other. It's a bearing a
Yeah.
witness of each other versus a coaching.
Yep.
Right.
And like, we're all teachers and students, guys. That's the other thing, is when I talk to my clients, whoever I'm working with, I always say, and I genuinely mean this, it is a gift, honor, and privilege to be able to sit with you for a little bit of your journey. And I mean that so emphatically, because everything I work with my clients on is just reinforcing the narrative for myself. And inevitably, and I'm sure you've experienced this, right? You get caught up in ego, or you have an experience and you're like, oh crap, I got to work through this. And then all of a sudden, your client jumps on a call. You now are tapped in, tuned into source because you're present. And I always say, like, sometimes source speaks through me because I am not that brilliant. Um,
Yes.
but then whatever I say to my client and to myself, and then I'm like, oh, duh, yeah, I got it now. And that's the beauty. So we're all students and we're all teachers, and we're all giving each other miracles and blessings and gifts. It's just you and I have done more of the icky sticky than others, and we just kind of help them through that icky sticky, but they're helping us too.
Right. Because I learned something no matter where my client is at,
Yep.
when I have a client that does the work.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What I've learned is, if I have someone who I've not properly screened, shall we say, and really doesn't do the work, I'm not going to fight. I will say, let me know when you're ready.
Yep.
Right? Because it's not my journey. This is your journey.
It's so fun. I don't screen people. I'll take on anybody. And that's only because embedded in me is A Course in Miracles, where it says, if God places somebody in front of you, you need to help them heal. Like that is, and I really believe that. However, I can't think of a more clarifying statement as I'll gut you like a fish, right? And people
Yeah.
laugh. They think it's funny. But also, I have zero problem firing people. I fired 2 clients in the past 3 months, and it's out of love. Like, they still call me. One of those people called me yesterday. I was able to hold space, but I'm like, I'm not actually going to make this framework or work with you on something that will benefit you if you're not ready to take action. You got to be ready to take action. I am not, and I need to clarify this, and I know that you're going to agree. I am not a therapist, guys. I'm not interested in delving up every trudge that ever happened, because that is not going to help you heal. Will you get flashbacks of memories and have to process that stuff in this present moment? Absolutely. I can do that. But I'm not somebody who's just, let's sit and talk about all the stuff. No, no, no. You
Yep.
need to do work. You need to take action. And the action can be as simple as drinking water every day and celebrating yourself, because celebrating yourself helps rewire your brain to believe in yourself. But if you're not even doing that, then I'm not the person for you, because
Right.
I'm not sitting and watching you want to change but not willing to put in forth the effort to do it. And you and me have to do it on ourselves all the time. We make
All
choices
the
every day.
time. All the time. And especially to be clear for our clients. You know, one of the interesting things you said, and then we'll cut this off. One of
Yep.
the interesting things that you said was, you know, I'm not that brilliant. It's not me. I record my sessions so that you can have the audio or the script, because I don't know sometimes what comes out of my mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I've had clients say, you know, what did you just say? And I'm like, I don't know. And I don't.
Yep. Me
So,
too.
you know, with the recording, if there's something that you want to, you know, recap on, there you go. There you go. Have a blast.
But I
Right?
think that speaks to you and I both being in our zones of genius. You know,
Yeah.
we're in our purpose when we're tapped in and tuned in. It's no different than a singer or a musician or a painter or anybody who really is on purpose, because they will tell you they are what they're doing. They're not doing what they're doing, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So there is no doing, it's
Yeah,
being.
we are. We
Right?
just are
We
in
just
what we
are.
are
Yeah.
meant to be. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was such a gift. Oh, we knew it was going to be good, but it was so much better than I even knew, because that's the way it always works.
Oh, you know, our conversations always go crazy. I was with someone the other day who said, wait a minute, and put on recording. This conversation has to be recorded,
Yeah, I
right?
love it.
Because
It's
I'll
so
go wherever
beautiful.
you want to go
Yep.
with the
Yep.
conversation. High, low, sideways. It's beautiful. So, Kerri, if people wanted to get in touch with you, what would they do?
Just kerrilewis.coach across all platforms, my website to social media. And I'm going to lovingly ask you on video. I want to have you on my show, Stripped Down. I have a show with a co-host, Michelle Barone. So it'll be good stuff.
Okay, we'll definitely do that. Everybody, this is Gail Kraft of the Empowering Process Podcast. Thank you for joining us today. This was a little wild conversation, and they're all going to be like that this year. I'm not going to be formulated at all. It's going to be shooting from the hip. So if you like this, please give us a thumbs up. If you know someone who could maybe benefit from this, share it out. As always, subscribe so you know when the next episode is out. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Empowering Process Podcast. Be sure to visit Gail at gailcraft.com to learn more about how she serves thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and goal seekers. And remember, if you like this broadcast, be sure to share and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.